Good evening all. Well, this will be my last appearance until later on in June as well. Because, yes, well it will be. Oh yes, I might as well mention that my salon will be, it's the first Tuesday of the month, and the next one will be with Irina Metler, who's quite a recognised local author, and it's going to be Tuesday the 7th at Fudgy's. So all scribes, bards, wordsmiths are welcome. Can't always guarantee that you'll be able to have the open mic session, but it's first come, first served at the moment. 7:30 is the start. Okay, this is entitled The Polish Experience number 4. I was in the harrowing Warsaw Ghetto Museum telling the story of the 1944 Warsaw Uprising in Ranic, the beautiful rebuilt Old Town Marketplace, in 1792. It was a time when the Russian communists were in control, and the only private enterprise I witnessed was selling excellent homemade ice cream in the streets. I was accompanied by Catholic Barbara, a young Polish actress who was the fiancée of my then friend Jacek Czechot, an art restorer living in London. He had arranged for me to stay with his parents in their gracious traditional first-floor flat, half of which they had lost when forced by the aggressive Russian regime to share it with another family. His father, Marek, a well-known arts and culture journalist, had escaped through the sewers of the ghetto, but preferred not to talk about his harrowing experiences. Marek gave me a watercolour sketch done by a Jewish boy he had known who had survived the Holocaust. His mother, also called Barbara, gave me a rustic wooden kitchen spoon, which I still have, here it is, and use today. It is dark brown, hand-carved wood in an unusual elongated shape and a treasured possession. Barbara and I had to communicate in Italian, as she spoke no English and I spoke no Russian or Polish. I mainly got by in French with the older cultured French-speaking generation, and English with the youngsters who were very keen to learn. How they hated the Russians and the language they were forced to learn and speak. I am of Imperial Russian heritage on both sides, from the Pale of Settlement, which one day was part of Eastern Poland and the other Imperial Russia. Barbara acted as my guide, leading me through large, almost empty rooms with hideous, primitive metal showcases with cloudy glass jammed up against the grey walls. Inside the cabinets were huge mounds of hacked-off hair used to stuff primitive pillows in the camps, an uncountable amount of wire spectacles piled high, abandoned suitcases with Jewish surnames stamped into the tan leather, such as Goldberg, Finkelstein, Bloom, et al., discarded old worn shoes and yellowing teeth, having had all the gold extracted. Just heartbreaking. We sat for ages on the long, cold, narrow metal bench, watching the famous German propaganda films of the living dead in the Warsaw Ghetto, corpses littering the pavement, and finally the Russian and American films of the liberation of the death camps, especially Auschwitz, after the Nazis had fled in 1945. Suddenly, Barbara was fighting back tears. I asked her what had upset her. Silently, she pointed to a central showcase exhibiting a tall metallic milk churn. There, besides the solitary churn, lay a penciled note written in Polish. The note from an unknown Jewish woman had moved Barbara to tears. It was a cry for help from the grave, penning the indescribable horrors of daily life in the Warsaw Ghetto. A cry into the timeless abyss destined for whoever would find it after her slaughter. It was a plea for future generations never to forget, never again. After, at the exit of the museum, I voraciously read the thick visitor's book on a large music stand left for comments. There were entries in all languages, but mainly American tourists, in recognizable sloping handwriting written in English with Polish family names, perhaps who had come back briefly to their homeland after decades abroad, or perhaps their children or grandchildren in search of their heritage. The most memorable entry that has remained with me since 1972 was the single word, why?